With Life is Strange Reunion right around the corner, I want to make a quick video talking about what I expect the game will be like. Before I start, there are a couple things I need to say. This video will contain spoilers for the Life is Strange games, especially 1 and Double Exposure. Second, most of this will be primarily based on the announcement trailer, as I've learned from Death Stranding 2 that watching too much stuff before the game comes out can take away from the experience. To be honest, I like going into games very blind as everything becomes fresh and surprising, which I recommend. If that means you have to stop watching this video, go right ahead. And finally, this is all my personal thoughts, opinions, and theories. And with that out of the way, let's get started with how I think gameplay will work. Getting the core stuff out of the way, I assume it will function as it has in all the other games. You walk around, look at and interact with stuff, and make decisions through dialogue and action. While this may be the same as all the other games, there is something that is unique to Reunion. That being playing as two separate characters, Max and Chloe. How exactly we will be switching between the two, I do not know, but I imagine it will go based on story moments and you switch to that character. I do believe we will be primarily playing as Max, but I think Chloe will get a decent amount of time. We also know that each character has their unique gameplay mechanic from their respective game. Max gets her rewind ability, or some form of it, and Chloe gets her talkback thing. I don't think they will change either of these too much, especially Chloe's talkback. I think they could do something else with Max's powers, but I'm not sure exactly what that would be. One of the main things I'm interested in is how they will handle our choices from Double Exposure. With this game taking place in the same location with only a small time gap, a decent number of our choices from Double Exposure should cross over into this one. Now, will they do this by having you choose a save file or possibly manually putting in your choices at the beginning or throughout the game? I highly doubt they will only do the final choice with Safi. Other things will or should have an impact. Who or if you chose to romance, Yasmin's position, and your relationship with other members of the cast. This is something I hope they treat with care to respect our decisions. Overall, I think the gameplay will be very good, and I am looking forward to it. In terms of story, we don't get a ton, but there is some stuff to go off of. The things we do know. Max gets a vision of Caledon burning in 3 days. Chloe shows up, and Safi shows up. I imagine that the plot will be similar to the first game. Somewhere in the beginning, if not at the very start, Max has a dream sequence where she sees Caledon burning and sees that this will happen in 3 days. From there, she tries to figure out what will cause the fire. While looking for clues, Chloe shows up out of the blue to help. Now, I'll get into Chloe's whole situation later when I get into characters. If you chose not to sacrifice Chloe, she explains why she showed up, and they catch up. If you sacrificed her, she explains her situation. The two team up and look for information. While this is going on, I think there should be some side plot with Max and Moses dealing with the repercussions of the two worlds colliding and Max's power. Eventually, Max realizes that the fire might have something to do with Safi and tracks her down, or Safi appears, leading Max to believe it has something to do with her. The rest of the game is an attempt to stop the fire from happening, but it eventually does anyway. This then most likely leads to the final choice. My only request is that it is not the exact same choice as the first game, having to choose between Chloe and Caledon. I highly doubt they will do this as it would be way too similar and both parties would probably pick the same ending again. It'd be too obvious and there would be no point in bringing Chloe back in the first place for people like me who saved Arcadia Bay. While I don't want that to be the ending, it is possible. But now I'm going to talk about what I think the other possibilities are. There could be a choice between saving Safi and Chloe, which would be dumb as I don't know who would pick Safi, especially since she seems to be going on a power trip of villain arc. Max might have a choice to sacrifice herself in some way. Max might have to go back in time and stop the two worlds from colliding in some way, and I think this has the highest possibility out of my ideas. I think the fire will start because a good chunk of people went through a supernatural event and got little to no answers. Then they became angry and confused. This led to them rioting or something at Caledon and eventually starting the fire. Max realizes that the only way to stop this would be to go back and stop the merge somehow, probably having something to do with Safi. It's not perfect, but it's what I got. With the main plot out of the way, I want to talk about something I don't think will be in the game's story. that being some sort of twist villain, mastermind, or someone who led to everything happening. This game does not seem to be focused on a missing person or death. I don't think that there would be any twist person behind the events of this game. Sophie is already somewhat set up as the villain, with Diamond possibly being her sidekick. If anything, it's Sophie and Max leading to the fire. Now, if there is someone behind the curtain who, besides maybe starting the fire, I don't see any reason for, they can't be a couple things. It's the same thing as I mentioned in my double exposure video. They cannot be a parental figure, someone who is in power or idolized, or related to a main character. Every game besides 2 has had someone along these lines. 1 had Jefferson, who was someone in power and idolized by the main character, as well as kind of a parental figure towards Nathan, but that's a bit of a stretch. In Before the Storm, you have James Amber, who ticks all the boxes. He's Rachel's dad and is the DA. In True Colors, you have Jed, who is Ryan's dad and is basically the head of Haven Springs. And finally, in Double Exposure, you had Yasmin, who is Sophie's mom and the president of the school. Now, I don't think we have a character in this game who would fit the criteria, unless it's Joyce, who is Chloe's mom, who might be dead depending on the timelines, either of Max's parents, Sophie's dad, whom we haven't seen and know little about, or possibly Moses' parents, whom we also haven't seen. But once again, I highly doubt there will be anything like this. And finally, I've heard that this game might only be 3 chapters long instead of the usual 5. Now, I'm not sure if this has been confirmed or not, but it makes sense. This game has the fastest turnaround with only a year and a half between games instead of the usual 3. On top of that, Max only has 3 days to stop the fire, and if it's anything like the first game, each chapter will be 1 day. Now, I don't mind the game being shorter as long as it takes its time and fully fleshes out what it does have. With all that out of the way, I am excited and nervous about the story. I'm excited because I think it has a chance to be really strong and powerful. I'm nervous because I don't want it to fall flat or just be a complete rehash of the first game. Overall, I'm optimistic. Now on to characters, starting with our lead, Max Caulfield. I honestly don't have too much to say about Max, as she should be pretty similar to how she was in the previous game. I am very interested in seeing how she will react to Chloe, especially if you chose to sacrifice her. I think they will handle her well in this regard and give us a good mix of old and new Max in their interactions. The main thing I'm worried about is her powers. Max has now had 2 encounters with the universal bending events caused by power usage, so I would like to think she would be pretty apprehensive of using them. However, as we know, she is getting her old ability back, which means we will probably be using it a lot. Now, to be fair, she does get a vision of Caledon burning like she did in the first game, which signifies the universe already has some BS going on. I imagine it will be similar to the first game and Double Exposure by having her powers start acting up or accidentally using them in a reaction or from emotion. Overall, I think Max will be handled extremely well and I'm excited to play as her one last time. Moving on to Chloe, I'm very interested in how she is going to be handled. In theory, we should have 2 different versions of her. One who was always alive, but Arcadia Bay was destroyed, and one who wasn't alive, presumably until the end of Double Exposure or some new universal situation. I'm a bit worried about how they're going to handle the dead version of her. She hasn't existed for about a decade, and all of a sudden she is alive. Now, in the trailer, she does say she has memories of things, implying that she was most likely given the memories from the living version of her, knowing that it shouldn't be true. I imagine that this is what causes her to seek out Max, as she is the only logical reason behind anything like this happening. Besides the split version of her, I think they'll do a good job with the character by having her be similar to Before the Storm and 1, but now a bit more mature. Her being more mature is something I think is needed, as a grown woman in her late 20s or early 30s being as moody or impulsive as a teenager is not going to be the best to have as a companion. Those traits are already something I don't care for in those games, and I hope they don't get carried over in an attempt to preserve her character. Now, I'm not asking to completely change her, or else that ruins her character, but it has been about a decade and people change and grow. Overall, I look forward to seeing Chloe again, and I hope they treat her right. Now to Sophie. To be honest, I am more intrigued by what Sophie's role is going to be in this game than Chloe. Safi in the last game was starting to develop some villain-like qualities, and I would honestly like to see them show up in this one. Having a very clear antagonist from the get-go would be cool. It also gives some emotional impact as I do like Safi as a character and her relationship to Max. I personally chose not to side with her in Double Exposure, as I don't want to side with some power-hungry person who wants to use their powers however they see fit. However, I don't think she is a fundamentally evil person. I think she will do things she believes are for the greater good, but in reality will cause more harm. I think this may lead to one final encounter where you either convince her of the harm she is doing and she stops, joins you, or sacrifices herself. The other thing would be that you fail to convince her and she doubles down, causing something even worse to happen. Overall, I think they will do a great job with her character, and I'm very interested in seeing her role. Diamond is a character we don't see at all in the trailer. This is strange as at the end of Double Exposure, she was being set up to be Safi's sidekick or protege. This leads me to wonder what her role in this game is really going to be. It's possible she becomes the real villain or is the cause behind the fire. What her motivations would be, I'm not entirely sure. She was hinted at gaining powers at the end of Double Exposure, so I am interested in seeing what those might be. Overall, I think she has a lot of potential in this game, and I hope it is explored. Now, on to some other characters that I want to talk about, but don't have too much to say. I look forward to Moses, as I think he will play a decent role in this game, and he's such a lovable guy. We see a decent amount of Loretta in the trailer, so I wonder what all she's going to be doing. I wonder how Vin and Amanda are going to be handled, especially if you romanced either of them, and how they interact with Chloe. And finally, there are two characters I want to talk about that are not confirmed to be in the game: Daniel from Life is Strange 2 and Alex from True Colors. Now, I don't think that either of these characters will be in the game, but some people have speculated it, as Safi did say she was going to look for more people with powers. Now, I have zero faith that Daniel will be in the game, as he has several different endings which heavily impact his character, which would be so hard to work around. The endings show us where he is in the future as well, and it would just make no sense. Now, Alex definitely has a better chance of being in the game, but she also has some ending variations as Daniel does, just to a smaller extent. Although they do seem to really be pushing that she and Steph leave Haven Springs. I really hope that they aren't forcing a canon ending. We already have two confirmed people with powers in this game, with Diamond probably being a third. We don't need more. As much as I would love to see these characters again, I don't think it would work. Overall, I think the characters will be great in this game. Now I'm on to some extra stuff that I want to talk about but isn't as major. With the music, I expect them to cook, as all the other games have, and I have a really strong feeling they're going to be hitting hard with this one. This is supposed to be the last game for the Max Caulfield saga, and with Chloe coming back, I imagine they will lean into both of their games' music a bit to really hit home. And the last thing is that I hope they have a really good trippy or nightmare sequence in this game. Those are some of my favorite moments from all of the games. And once again, I think they have a great opportunity to put some powerful stuff in there. Overall, I think this game has a chance to be a really good addition to the series. I think it has a good groundwork for the story and is loaded with characters with lots of potential. If they can get everything done well, this will be a phenomenal Life is Strange game. And now, remember, these are all my personal thoughts, and some things I have talked about may have been confirmed or denied, but as I'm trying to avoid information on the game, I don't know. And with that, I would like to thank you for watching my video. And if somehow anyone from the Life is Strange team is watching this, I just want to say hi, thank you for these great games, I love them. I just want to say, I am in fact an actor. I know this voiceover stuff might not be the best. It's a bit different from acting to read off of this versus like actually playing a character. So please don't judge that. I just want to say, if you ever need someone for a game, or the TV show, just saying, please hit me up. I would love, I'd be a background character for working for free. I don't care. I just need to be a part of it in some way. Game, show, movie, whatever it is. Please, please, please. It would be a dream come true. I know this is just a shot in the dark and no one watches these, but you know what? Might as well try. Anyway, love y'all. Thank you so much for these games, and I will see y'all when I actually play the game.